Hello, friends, and welcome back to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. Thank you for allowing this podcast to come through your Bluetooth, your car radio, wherever you are listening from. If this is your first time here, my name is Nina Adio, and I am a social media marketing expert specifically for the wedding industry. On the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast, I discuss tips and tricks for wedding pros to DIY their social media or to gain the confidence to outsource it. And today I have a really special interview for you because it is all about money, abundance, getting in control of your finances. And for many of us in the wedding industry, we work for ourselves. We are creating our own businesses and creating our own financial successes. And that's why I thought it was so important to speak with Eileen Joy. She is a money coach and she shows you how money can be easy and how to create wealth without the sacrifice. So you can still have fun, enjoy your life, enjoy your business, and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Eileen drops a lot of wisdom and even drops some bombs to me. She even messaged me after we filmed this interview together, saying how she could see when I would bring up some examples of my own money stories. She could see my body language changing. She could see my insecurities around money, and just did some really rapid fire free coaching with me after the call, which was so generous. And that alone was so impactful. So you're going to love everything that Eileen has to say. Stay tuned for the very end of the interview because that's when Eileen says what her current promotions and how you can work with her. But I will let you know now that you can find Eileen at momswhomoney.com and at the Moms Who Money podcast. But stay tuned till the end so you can see where to go and how to get private coaching with Eileen, because I'm pretty confident that after you hear this, you're going to want it. And for people who are in charge of their own business, in charge of their own destiny, getting in control and getting in charge of your money is going to be so huge. That's something I learned in my business. And now I'm really grateful that Eileen has come on to give that same opportunity to you guys. So let's get right into it. Eileen, I am so excited to have you here. You are able to offer something that I cannot, which is expertise on money and finances. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I'd love to just get started by you describing in your own words, what is a money coach and what does a money coach offer?
Well, first of all, thank you, Nina, for having me here today. I love talking to you. So this is going to be fun.
Yes.
So a money coach I'll tell you first what it's not, because a lot of people confuse what a money coach is with like a financial advisor. So what a money coach is not is someone that takes your money and does it for you, right? Like a financial advisor takes your money and then all they do is invest it. They don't do anything else. They just invest it, right? So what I do is I empower you with a financial education that you didn't learn in school.
I love it.
And
we learned nothing in school.
Nothing. We don't learn about money in school at all. And they still don't teach it in school. They teach you, in math, like this is a quarter, it's worth 25 cents. This is a dime. That's it. That's about the extent of it, when you're in fourth grade?
Yeah. Then you're on your own.
Exactly. And so I teach you how to manage your own money so that you're set for life. And that's essentially what it is. So what I do is you get paid, right? Whether it's a paycheck or you get money from your business, right? And then what do you do with it? Like most people, they just take that money and pay bills and then hope there's money left over. So what I do is I break that cycle and I show you how to properly actually spend your money, because no one knows really how to properly spend, and then also save it and invest it. And right now, I'm currently offering one-on-one coaching sessions. So if you're ready to invest in yourself, And you really need to be committed to give yourself that space and the time to learn how to make money easy. Then it's for you. Because I make money easy and fun, because everyone thinks it's so hard because it's so confusing because no one's taught it to you. So of course it's confusing and hard. So I break it down. I have a special process where I take you by the hand and we do it in little baby steps so it's not overwhelming. And I create a completely personal and comfortable space that's really only focused on you and your personal finances. So we're not in a big group and everyone's sharing. We're focused on you. So everything's personalized. So we create wealth for you. You don't have to sacrifice. And I'll show you how to keep your money. You can use it for fun and enjoy your life, all while you stop living paycheck to paycheck, and then you also help to create a healthy relationship with money for you and your family. And that's what I specialize in, as well as teaching your kids also. Like I have a 10-year-old son, and he knows more about money than most adults. It's
That's
amazing.
great.
Like
Yeah.
the other day we were at the chiropractor and I was getting adjusted. We both get adjusted every Wednesday. So we were there and it was my turn. I was getting adjusted and my son said something about the stock market. I don't remember what exactly, but then the chiropractor said something to him and he's like, well, it's a bear market. So everything's on sale. And she was like, what?
I love that.
So right now I have 3 one-on-one coaching spots available. So you got to jump on them because they really go fast.
Well, what I love about what you said and what stuck out to me the most was breaking the cycle, because I think we all can relate, whether it's going from paycheck to paycheck, or for some professionals who are full-time in their wedding business, you're going from booking to booking. And the freedom of breaking that cycle is something that just really excites me. And why this is so important, and I feel like the stakes can even be higher for wedding professionals, is that they get paid in a different structure than traditional jobs. So for one booking, they may receive a small deposit one day and not start to receive the rest of the balance until a year later. And that's why I think having a money coach or somebody who can go through these steps with you is so important. So, but what advice do you have for someone who has a different payment structure like this?
So what I recommend is I recommend this for everything, whether you have a business or not, is set yourself up for success. And what I mean by that is most people don't know how to manage their own personal money. And then when it comes to business, it's even worse, because managing your business in terms of finances is really different from managing your own personal life, right? So especially since most people only know how to be an employee, right? And then you get a paycheck. And then when you turn into a business owner, you're just completely clueless as to how to manage the finances there. And it's different. It's a completely different way of doing it. So people hire bookkeepers and accountants and things like that, but they don't actually manage the money. They just keep track of it. So you are the one that's responsible for the day-to-day. So everyone needs a strategy and a way to spend their money wisely, because personal finance is personal. I say that all the time. Personal finance is personal, whether it's your personal life or your business life, because everyone's situation is different, because everyone's income and expenses are different, right? So there's really no one generic response to this question because of the personality of it. But what I can say is set yourself up for success. Like it's like when I lost 130 pounds. I don't know if I ever told you that, but I lost 130 pounds years ago, and I had to set myself up for success every single day, right? So I needed to ensure that I had my food prepped and my water ready to go and carving out time to work out and all those things, right? So when you're not making consistent money and then it ebbs and it flows, especially when you have a business that's seasonal, such as weddings, right? You really need to set yourself up for success and really understand your business and work with it instead of against it, right? So understanding what your expenses are, and then you plan accordingly for that. So you definitely need an emergency fund. whether your personal life ends, you need two separate ones, one for personal, one for business.
That's smart.
Okay.
Smart.
Very smart, because it's two totally different things.
Yeah.
Right. So then from there, you need to take the money from when you're in your busy season, right? And don't spend all of it, right? Use
Yeah.
your common sense,
Yes.
right? And you plan for the slow season.
Or is that a
Right?
pun? Use your common sense.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, it's really just simple concepts that really no one teaches you in school, right? You just get your money and spend it. That's what we are really kind of conditioned to do. You get your money and spend it. And
Yes,
then
and
you're
it's
like,
the
oh no,
conditioning.
right.
Because
It
there's
is the
no
condition.
shame involved because you don't know what you don't know. And when you
Mhm.
were mentioning the weight loss, what I thought it was a great comparison because also, your weight is on you and it's something people can see. Your
Mhm.
debt or your finances, it's something we tend to keep secret and
We
keep
hide it.
hidden, and
Mhm.
there's shame around it. And I
Yes.
think overcoming that kind of mindset and block, like you're saying,
Mhm.
set yourself up for success and breaking patterns is a big part of it.
This is something I work deeply with on my client, with not on my with my clients, because of this, right? Most of our money choices are made out of fear. And most people don't even realize it. It's just conditioned within us, right? So even someone considering working with a money coach, they're afraid to even attack their money. Kind of like people that want to go to a therapist, but they put it off for years because they're afraid of the pain they're going to feel. Like for
Mhm,
me, like when I was
mhm.
going through my divorce, I did not want to go to therapy, but I really needed it, and all I did was cry, cry, cry. They put me on meds, all these things. It was like this horrible thing, right? And all of the pain, like I just did not want to face it. Same thing with money, right? And then you get around the other side and you're like, wow, I don't know why I didn't do this years ago,
Yes, and you
right?
can't outrun it. It catches up with
No,
you.
it
I
does.
went through I'm a cancer survivor at 19, and so I just when you're healthy, you don't want to go back there. But then 5 years later, all of a sudden it was like I went and everything I went through just flooded to me and I had to do the work. I couldn't outrun it. Like it will catch up with you, whether it's
Yeah, because
money,
we
whether it's
stuff
mental
it
health.
down.
Hmm.
Yeah. It just, we stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. And then when we get full, it explodes. And that's when we have
Yes.
the breakdowns, and we're like, I just can't do this anymore. I need to,
Yeah,
all that.
I
Yeah.
think with money, it probably shows up differently. It's through, charging rather than just stuffing down the emotions. The emotions
Both.
come out through what you're charging and spending and
Exactly.
putting off.
Yeah. I call it retail therapy,
Hmm.
but I'm sure we've all heard that term before. But, we learn about money from our environment. And that creates our money story. And this is where I begin most with my clients, is your money story. And basically what your money story is just simply how you feel about your money and how you learned about your money, right? Because we think about it, or we don't learn in school, right? So your first money memory, like think back to your childhood, back when you were really little. Like what was your first money memory? Like really think about it.
Well,
And
let
then
me
why
tell
is
you,
that your first?
I have one where it's my dad got a new car and said to me, "Did you tell your friends I got a new $40,000 car?" Yes, you know this story because I've had to be coached on it. So then I remember being on the school bus in elementary school and telling my friends that verbatim and the stares I got in return, because
Mhm.
I didn't know how to translate what he was saying or to brush it off. I was like, oh, okay, when you have a car that costs, at the time, this was 30 years ago, cost a lot, you tell people and you tell people the price tag. And that's been hard to overcome.
And that, my friend, is called keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes.
And
Oh,
that makes me cringe all the time. But so, so why is that your first money memory? Like, why does that stick out to you so much?
I think because I could see the difference between what he told me and the reaction I got when I shared it.
Yeah, exactly. and people were like jealous of you, or,
Like, why is she saying that?
shocked, or
We
yeah,
don't
like
care.
I don't care, or yeah, exactly.
It's like we're 8.
Exactly.
We don't
Right.
know
Like
what to do with that.
who gives a whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I always talk to people about. Like, what was the environment like in your house growing up, right? In regards to money. So was there talk about money at all? And if there was it positive talk or was it negative? Was there yelling and screaming and fights? Like, money is a big one of the biggest divorce creators. People just they can't talk about money, so they just don't, and they end up breaking up. It's like it really breaks up families. Um, like just even learning money lessons. Like, so when you think back to your childhood and how you learned about money, it's really all about your environment and the experiences with it. So, like, really quick, I'll tell you my money story. So,
Yeah.
my mom and my dad. So, my mom was a spender. She still is to this day. And my dad, he had a gambling addiction, and they fought and fought and fought because they were both spending, just
Yes,
in
that's
very
like a
different ways.
recipe for disaster.
Yes, and it was. And all they did was fight. And my sister and I actually begged them one day to get divorced because it was so bad. And it was always over money. They never got divorced, FYI. But it just kept getting worse and worse. And so over the years, my father ended up starting his own company. And he was working for the phone company back when it was called New York Telephone, and now it's Verizon. Over the years, it's morphed into so many different things. And so right out of high school, he went and started working for them. He worked for them forever. And while he was working his job, he started his business. He worked out of my playroom in the basement of the house. He had a desk in there, and then ended up starting this amazing business. It was a pharmaceuticals business, pharmaceutical packaging, that he started because of something that happened to my grandma, and then he all of a sudden had a factory, and that had another bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one, but he never knew how to manage his money. And
Mhm.
he lived on loan after loan after loan after loan and borrowing from family. He actually closed all of their IRAs and their retirement accounts and took all the money without telling my mom, and fight after fight after
Yeah.
fight, right? And so all these things. And so one of my first money memories was my dad taking me to OTB when I was little. I was 5 years old. OTB is, I don't think it's around anymore, but on Long Island, there was a place called
Yes.
OTB, off
Mhm.
track betting, where all these crazy gambler people went. That's what I call them. The crazy gambler people would go to bet on horses. And I was 5 years old, and my dad would take me, and I was always so scared. And we would walk in there, and the guys would be screaming and drinking and smoking cigarettes and cigars. And I was like, I would just want to run.
Mhm.
And, and all he would do, he would be screaming with them, and just spending, spending, spending. And then my mom would get the bills, and then she would find that he would be putting everything on the credit cards. And so it was just this awful thing. So I learned how to spend. And, so that was the very quick version, really, of my money story. And so I really do teach this to all my clients so that we can really go deep about it and find out what creates your money mindset. Because your money mindset creates how you deal with your money and how you think about it. Like, money is evil, money doesn't grow on trees,
Mhm.
rich people are greedy, or people that have money are snobby and rude. But you can really flip it to people that have lots of money can do so much good with it, and they can like donate to charities and help others that are less fortunate. Like, money really can be a good thing.
Yeah. And I want to say, about your father's story, I think it really lends to what we were saying of you can't outrun it. So even, you can get the success and the business, but until you address what's going on
Yeah.
inside out, you
Hmm.
can't outrun it.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I'm wondering, because we're talking about money mindset. Do you have any just really, entry level money mindset tip or affirmation somebody can start doing today while they're listening?
Money mindset really does start with your money story. So I really want everyone to think about their first money memory. And then from there, think about, what is your fear, the biggest fear that you have around money? and then see how those two are correlated, because they always are.
Mm-hmm.
And that will help you to create a mantra for yourself of how you want to flip it. So like for me, my sister and I were always afraid that we were going to, lose the house or whatever, because they were always fight, right? So my fear is losing everything. And then after my divorce, I lost everything, right? So that's my fear right now of getting back to, and also same thing with losing weight, right? I'm afraid to gain all my weight back. Same kind of like, what's your fear, right? So your fear about it will create the mantra for your positive affirmations that you can say to yourself. Like, for example, if your fear is all the debt that you're incurring starting your business, then your mantra would be, I am debt free.
Mm-hmm.
It
Or
feels so
mm,
great to have financial freedom. You flip it to the
yeah.
opposite, and then that's what you work towards. And then working with the money coach obviously will show you how to eliminate your debt and save money at the same time, so that you're creating that wealth so that your business will thrive.
Yeah, it's so funny because even as we're doing this, I'm like connecting dots because I've had
Mhm.
issues with thinking people, will judge me if I'm too successful, which probably goes back to that initial,
Mhm.
kind of story that I was taught money is something to show off,
Exactly.
and that'll be less likable. So really, once you start connecting these dots, you're kind of then just off to the races of curing it and
Mhm.
having amazing things happen. So one thing I want to ask, because this was something really specifically that hit the wedding industries, that during COVID, many wedding professionals had to deal with contract disputes, refunds, and so forth. So this really affected their money mindset because now there's so much fear of couples signing a contract, giving a deposit, and trying to dispute it later. And what the couples will do is they'll write reviews, they'll do everything, and not all couples, of
Mhm.
course, but you do get, some people have dealt with people who will just do whatever sort of smear campaign, possible. But what can we talk about regarding money mindset and contracts and how wedding professionals can get over those fears that kind of came on during COVID?
Well, the key word here is contract, right? So the really simple answer to this is, what's in the contract? Is the deposit refundable or not? Your contract needs to be clear, and it really needs to be ironclad, right? So this is your business, right? So you need to legally protect yourself from any kind of dispute. So whether or not they slam you on Yelp or whatever, if your contract is ironclad and if their deposit is not refundable, oh well, and that should be an industry standard, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
that
and
everyone's contracts need to be, and you need to hold them to that. You could take them to court if that's your contract, right? And remembering that it's a business and you're dealing with all kinds of people, and specifically bridezillas is what
yes,
comes to my
they do
mind, right?
exist. They do exist.
I've seen the show.
Love that
But
show.
right? So, I mean, your contract really needs to protect you and your business from any type of event, right? And you can continuously revise your contract for, that's why people have insurance, right? Because of different things like that, right? So, you can also have insurance against any type of things that come up like this as well, to cover you in case of a type of event like COVID or whatever, and they
Mhm.
do make policies that do cover you for specific different things. Um, where you'd pay extra, obviously, to be covered for a natural disaster, especially if you have a wedding venue that is on the water, or like, things like that,
Yes, yes.
right? So as your business grows, like, you're just going to keep dealing with more and more and more different kinds of people. And then they're going to just demand things from you that you really never even dreamed about when you first started your business,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
even just take this past few years, nobody
Right.
dreamed that they'd be rescheduling 3 times and then the person saying, I've changed my mind, we eloped, I want my money back,
And that would go in your contract,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So things like this, like setting yourself up for success, right? So these are the things that you learn as time goes on, as you have a business. And also, you can interview other people that are in similar businesses and say, hey, what are the issues that you've come up with? Like, I'm really thinking about starting this business, or I just started this business and I want to know what I'm walking into.
Yeah, or
Like,
even
for
if you're in the
example,
business and it comes up,
yes.
and
Yeah,
you
you
don't know
talk
what
to
to
other
do. Yeah.
people and just say, hey, let's talk about the different things that we're facing and maybe we can all help each other,
Hmm.
and like I think even though you're competitors, air quotes, you're still in the same industry, and having an industry standard really, I think, would stand out. And then you would actually curb those people complaining, because if everyone's doing the same thing, then
Hmm.
it's not really an issue,
Yeah.
right? And if you also think about like why you started your business, right? Because you wanted to make it's like a fun way to make money without sitting at a desk all day working a 9 to 5, right?
Absolutely.
But this particular business, you're not going to just be sitting at a desk. You're going to be dealing with different people that can sometimes be nutso, you know? And and especially with weddings, like everyone expects everything to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect, right? It's their perfect dream day, right? And that could bring out the demons in people, if
Yeah,
something
yeah.
goes wrong, right? What if something doesn't go as planned? Even if it's something as the color of the napkins are wrong by like a shade, or,
Hmm.
like it could make someone fly off the handle and possibly give a bad review, which is with the average person seeing that is like, well, that person's a bridezilla, I mean, common sense. But really just going back and setting yourself up for success in every area would really, and just setting the right expectations with your potential customers as well, and setting it up front before they even sign the contract. It's like, these are the expectations for if you sign here on the dotted line.
Hmm.
This is like, don't just sign the contract with here's the contract, sign it. Like, make sure you go over it with them and
Yes,
let them
yes.
know, look, this is the deposit. You're not getting it back if anything happens.
Yeah,
You
and I
know?
think, as people, whether it's they're working with a money coach like you,
Mhm.
or they're getting comfortable in their business or working on their money mindset, hopefully it will eliminate the desperation to sign anybody right away. As soon as you're not
Yeah.
going to be thinking about living booking to booking, you're going to be
Mhm.
thinking about getting the right bookings that are aligned with your business. And so you're not going to be afraid to say, you don't get this deposit back. If something happens like COVID again, we can change your date, but we can't cancel, or whatever it is that
Right.
you're afraid to say. Hopefully it will eliminate that desperation. Because I know what that's like in
Exactly.
the beginning. You just
Mhm.
you just want to see that you can do it. But once you get comfortable and know your ideal client and
Mhm.
overcome whatever money story was holding you back to get a better money story, I think those interactions will change too.
Definitely, because it all comes to your confidence as well. So, and your confidence comes from your money story when you're dealing with money and business. So, in the like you're saying in the very beginning, when you're starting any business, you'll just take anyone. And
Hmm.
then that's when you're dealing with the crazies, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
then as time goes on, you get to know, you just get to know when you interview people.
Yes, because they can
And
smell you out. So you have to learn to
exactly,
smell them out.
exactly. If you want it to be a win-win for both of you, you don't want to be a doormat either, right? Like you don't want it. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
my advice is don't just take anyone. Like everyone's intuition is always right. Right. So if you're talking like kind of like, a dog could smell out someone that's not so good, like a not
Yes,
nice
yes.
person, right? Same kind of thing. That's our intuition, right? If the hair stands up on your arms, or you get this really weird feeling in your stomach, or like you think like your body talks to you in all different ways. And if you really need to pay attention, especially when you're interviewing people that want to hire you, you also want to make sure you want to work with them,
Yeah.
because it's really okay to turn someone away, even when you're just starting your business,
Mhm.
because it will cause so much stress that you will actually start to resent your business.
Yes, and it's not just one day you're working with them. You may just go, well, it's just
Yeah.
for the wedding day. No, it's the 2 years leading up to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And what can you do sparklers? Why don't you do that? I saw this on Instagram. You did that for her, not for me. It's gonna be a
Hmm.
thing.
It will. It really will.
Yeah. And we talked a bit about people, having starting off their business and having to invest.
Mhm.
They're getting equipment, machines. I'm thinking about people who have DJ companies, photo booths, and there can be some debt that goes along with that. So I was wondering what tips you have for paying off debt.
Okay, so this really goes back to personal finance concepts, right? Just learning how to manage your money properly, will just really automatically give you the tools to pay down your debts, whether it's personal or business, right? It's just
Mhm.
knowing the money concepts. So you really need to learn how to do this first in your personal life and get that under control.
Right,
And
right.
then you can learn how to do it in your business. You can do it at the same time, but it's really learning those concepts because they bleed into each other. And that's what happened with my dad was when he started his business. He had all this money. He was just taking, and he had no idea how to manage it. And he ended up going bankrupt. Right. So there you go. You need to learn the basic
Yeah.
money concepts, right? So what I do, because I work with both, I work with people that want to learn how to manage their day to day. So like just an employee, right? So
Hmm.
employee, they get their paycheck, and then what, right?
Right.
What do? You usually spend it. First, you pay your bills, right? And then you say, okay, well, I have this much left over. And then you just spend it and you have no
Yeah.
plan for it,
Hmm.
right? Same thing with mompreneur. I work with mompreneurs, right? So I teach you both. So I teach you when you get your money, you take a certain percentage of it and you put it towards profit. You put it towards your salary. You put it towards your expenses, your taxes, and so on. There's so many different things where you need to move your money around instead of just saying, okay, what are my bills today?
Hmm.
Right? We plan for the future. So we take the money in the busy season and we say, okay, and your first year, you don't know. We figure it out the first year. And every year you don't just do it once and say, okay, this is how much I need. Every year is different, right? So we learn from the previous year to set yourself up for success for the next year, right? So during your first year is a learning curve. Yes, you incur lots of debt your first year. And no, you will not pay it off the first year. Like you need to set the proper expectations
Right, right.
because you want to, obviously, you're going to be like, I'm going to do so amazing this year. I'm going to do six figures and to pay off all my debt. No, you probably won't. You might, it maybe could happen, but most of the time, you're just investing in your business, which you should be investing wisely on the tools and equipment and any coaching that you might need with anything that you're doing with your business. But learning those money concepts and um, just thinking about how much you need instead of throwing it all at your expenses and then just hoping that there's enough money to live on afterwards.
Right. Kind of as you're talking, like, wow, what could be more important than having somebody you collaborate with, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, I don't know how you structure things, but
Mhm.
to work on your money with, and set up, what your process for taxes are and
Mhm.
expenses and, it's just really, it sounds like something that should be required
I
when
agree.
starting a business.
Yeah, it's funny because yesterday, just as a quick aside, I
Mhm.
just thought about it. I went to pick my son up from camp because down here, I moved to Georgia from Long Island years ago, and summer here starts early, so they were already in summer camp. And so I went to pick up my son from camp yesterday, and I was standing with a group of moms while we were waiting for the kids to come out. And then one of the moms remarked that I looked really comfortable because I was wearing like yoga pants and a
Oh,
t-shirt or whatever, and she was dressed coming from the office.
ah.
And so I mentioned, well, this has now become my uniform since COVID. I refuse to wear jeans again. I refuse to wear heels
Mhm.
again.
Yep, yep,
And I went through my list, and we
yep.
started chatting. And long story short, we got onto the subject of money and that I'm a money coach. And she looked up to the heavens and she said, thank you, God. You were here for me today. And then she just looked at me and immediately she's like, how can I work with you? And
Yeah, yeah.
she asked me like, what do you do? What's a money coach and all these things? And she was like, I need you. I need you right now. And then all of the other people around where we were all talking and they were like, you do what? And we all got into this conversation about what we're talking about today is how we don't learn about money in school and everyone's so confused and lost and no one talks about it. And instead, they're just keeping up with the Joneses and just getting in more and more debt and squashing it down and not talking about it
Mhm.
and living in the stress
Yeah.
and hoping that one day they'll get out of debt.
And isn't it interesting that, like, especially when I was sharing my money story about kind of money and status, that once upon a time, how you dressed and dressing really fancy
Hmm.
was what was idolized. But now they saw you dressed comfortably and thought, how can I do that? I just want to be
Yeah.
comfortable. You know, I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
want to wear what I want to wear.
Yeah. And she even said to me, she said, I really would love to start my own business. I don't even know what it would be. And I said, it doesn't matter. I said, I can help you with that. We could figure it out, because you just do what you love and turn it into a business, right? And
Yes.
that's what life should be about.
And also, just like a little networking for all the wedding pros listening,
Yeah,
don't be afraid to share what you do, because that's
exactly.
how a lot of these things happen. Or
Mhm.
if you're looking to do something, don't be afraid to share it. I always like to say the example of, like, when you are with your hairdresser has access to everybody. That is where
Yeah,
you say, I'm looking to book some corporate parties. You know anybody? But it's always
yeah.
share what you do, because you don't know who's going to look up to the heavens and say, thank you, God, I was praying for you. Here you are.
You don't want to be the world's best kept secret because no one will
Mhm.
know what you do if you don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Right? So I always make it a point to tell people what I do. I've become comfortable doing that. At first, I felt uncomfortable because I'm like, oh, what are they going to think of me? Like what you were saying before, right?
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
you're being vulnerable and whatever, whatever you think people are going to think of you. But like even for example, like the other day, like last weekend, I was in the supermarket and I was looking at the chicken. And this is an example that I give to people all the time because I take my son grocery shopping with me and I teach him about money concepts in the supermarket because it's so easy to do that, right? So, but he happened to be at his dad's that weekend. So I was by myself. I was looking at the chicken. Long story short, when I look at chicken, I always look at the unit price, the price per pound,
Hmm.
right? So I like to buy the higher end, like organic chicken, right? So it's always more expensive. So I'm looking and I happened to see a few that said $2.99 a pound. Then there was one right next to it that said $5.49 a pound. And then I saw another one next to it that said $6.49 a pound, all for the same thing. And I
Hmm.
was like, what in the world? Like, and I see this all the time. There's always so many discrepancies. So I started talking to the woman next to me about it. And I said, oh my God, get the 2.99s. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she just started grabbing chicken off the shelf. And I was like, no, you have to look at this. And she was like, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you're saying. And so I said, the unit price. She's like, what does that mean?
Hmm.
And so I said, okay, put down the chicken. Right.
Right. Right.
And I
Like,
gave her a
pull
lesson. And I said,
over.
right. I was like, I'm a money coach. This is what I do. And then she did the same kind of thing as the other lady. She's like, thank you, God. Thank you. I knew this was going to be a good day. I remember she said, I knew this was going to be a good day, And so it's so needed. It is just so needed because everyone is so confused and no one talks about it.
Yeah. And you were mentioning how the mother you're talking to wanted to start her own business, and you work with
Hmm.
mompreneurs. A lot of my audience, especially for the podcast, because they're not in a position where they can get full service social media, they are someone who their wedding business right now is a side hustle, and they want to
Hmm.
transition into full time. So how much savings do you recommend somebody have before they make that step to go full time with their side hustle?
In this particular business, such as weddings, because it is such a seasonal business, I would say 8 to 12 months. It really depends upon the business that you're starting. So, for example, I had done real estate years ago, and back then they were like, you just, to get like 6 months, just have 6 months saved because you'll have clients by then. But because this is a seasonal business and you are not really knowing when you're going to get paid, and if you have a contract that says your wedding's going to be in a year or two, you need to prepare for that. You need to, and if you're going to make the leap, if you're still working your job while you're doing this, then not as much perhaps because you're still getting paid. But
Hmm.
if you're jumping into it with both feet, then have that money set aside just in case, because if you're just collecting small deposits, you can't live on that. unless you're getting a lot of small deposits.
Yeah, and as you learn maybe your ebb and flow of
Hmm.
the business and the
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
I want to do some rapid fire questions with you, and then I'll ask, how our audience can find you and work with you. So kind of be fill in the blanks. One thing that is always worth splurging on is.
Self-care.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to get a massage later today.
So
So
is a
yeah,
massage, is that like your self-care go-to?
I'm a spa junkie.
Hmm.
That's part of my self-care. But self-care could be as simple as taking a bath, and that's
Yeah, for
free. But
me, it's as Long Islanders would say, iced coffee.
yes.
Iced coffee in particular, that is like my splurge. That gives me my purpose for the second half of the work.
Understood.
Okay. I cringe when I see people spend their money on.
Ugh. Just really anything that you're overpaying, like overpaying for a house, or like what you said, a car earlier,
Yeah, or
just
chicken.
anything, chicken, right?
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Just, anyone just that's really just trying to keep up with the Joneses
Mhm.
is it drives me nuts.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be a vicious cycle.
Yes. Yes.
When I'm in the zone, I'm listening to.
Okay, so two different things for this. So when I'm working, when I'm in my zone working, I listen to binaural beats and really just get in my zone, and just like the background music and how
Mhm.
I love the way it feels, the energy in my body. And when I'm in my car, I'm all about dance music with a really
Uh-huh.
good beat, and I make it really loud, and I love to dance. I'm just dancing while I'm driving.
So interesting because I have, like, based on where I am, I have different things I listen to as well. Like at the
Yeah.
desk,
Yeah.
it's a playlist. In my car, it's a podcast. Like it's.
Hmm.
Can you explain real quickly for anyone listening who's not familiar with binaural beats what it
Hmm.
is and where they can listen to them?
Yeah, I mean, you can just Google it, really. They have binaural beats all over YouTube. It's on Spotify and Apple. You can just actually type in binaural beats.
Mhm.
And essentially what it is, it's different frequencies um, that is played with music that affect the energy within your body. So you can use it for sleeping, you can use it for focusing, you
Mhm.
can use it for studying, you can do it for all different types of things, and healing even. They even have
Yeah.
ones for healing. So if you're in pain, or if you have cancer or any, it
Mhm.
really helps with healing with your body. It's really
Yeah.
awesome.
I love it. Sometimes you don't realize, like, wow, I am flowing better. Like I
Yeah.
am focusing
Yeah.
better. Or I have a short attention span. So even if I'm reading for fun, I need something playing in the background because it helps me from getting distracted. So I like
Hmm.
binaural beats for that. And last one is a book that changed my life is.
Ooh, this is a good one. The Millionaire Next Door. The Millionaire Next Door is, well, I found it to be a money mindset book.
Okay.
And when I read this book, it was recommended to me years ago. I read it years ago, and I actually read it again. I do have to say, I want to warn you, it's extremely boring. I recommend it, but
Yeah, yeah.
oh man, because it's based on research. So there were these two
Mm,
men that did some research, and they interviewed millionaires and billionaires on how they became millionaires and
mm.
billionaires and how they live now. And not one of them tries to keep up with the Joneses.
Wow.
Most of them drive Toyota Corollas and live very frugally and don't overspend, and they know how to manage their money. And so like this is when I learned about, oh, so spending isn't good. Okay,
Yeah.
let's
See,
let's
my
see.
dad would take that and just
Um,
close the book. He'd be like, no.
right? So like this really made me think when I read this book many years ago. And then I also did the same thing. Like I read it and I was like, oh, whatever. And I put it down. And
Yeah,
that's why I read it again, you know, and then I really saw it in a different light.
great. So now where can our audience find you and how can they work with you?
Well, I'm everywhere. I'm all over social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Eileen Joy Money Coach. And I'm also on LinkedIn as Eileen Joy, and then also Money Coach for Moms. My website is momswhomoney.com. And I also have a podcast called Moms Who Money. And
Fantastic.
you can listen to it anywhere podcasts are playing. You can also listen to it on my website. And yeah, that's it.
Great. What kind of content can they expect over on your podcast?
I talk about money, money mindset, spirituality, mom life, all of it. I tie it all in together.
This was so fun and such a great value. Thank you again, Eileen, for just sharing so much. I think our audience is really going to love it. And don't forget, Eileen shared her Instagram, Eileen Joy Money Coach. So if you heard this and you enjoyed it, send her a message. Let her know what your new money mantra is going to be. Thanks again, Eileen.
Thank you so much, Nina. This was so fun.
Yeah. As promised, guys, that was a really inspiring chat with Eileen Joy of Moms Who Money. I can't wait to hear what you tap into and what money story you realize you have that you are ready to overcome to hit your financial goals and financial freedom. You can Instagram message myself at I Do Wedding Marketing or Eileen at Eileen Joy Money Coach and tell us what breakthroughs you had while listening to this episode. I have more interviews coming up all summer long here on the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast. So be sure to subscribe if you want to make sure not to miss any of those. As always, you can be in touch with me on my Instagram or on my website, www.idoweddingmarketing.com, where I take and talk with clients about doing their full service social media. Until then, guys, I will see you next Wednesday. Bye bye.